Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty relatable, I think. The job search.
Yeah, that whole process can be rough.
Exactly. But we're not looking at the usual tips. We're taking a different angle, applying business problem-solving methods.
Interesting, like corporate tools for personal life.
Precisely. Our main source today is someone who actually did this, used Lean Six Sigma principles while they were looking for work for quite a while.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And if you're someone who likes to get to the point, understand things deeply, this might offer some, fresh perspectives. So here's a thought to kick us off. Have you ever felt stuck on a personal hurdle and thought, maybe there's a more structured way to tackle this?
It's a great question because it's quite fascinating, isn't it? Taking these frameworks built for big organizations and seeing if they fit something so personal, emotional, like finding a job.
Right. We tend to put things in boxes.
We do. Business tools over here, personal life over there. But the underlying logic, figuring out what's wrong, measuring stuff, analyzing why it's not working, trying something new, seeing if it helps. That core idea is surprisingly versatile.
Totally agree. And our source material really brings this home. The author talks about 7 months of job searching, lots of effort, but getting, as they described it, the polite no and the echoing silence.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds familiar to anyone who's been there. That feeling of disappointment.
Definitely. But then they have apparently looked at this Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification they'd just gotten and had a kind of light bulb moment. Maybe this could help. Now, for anyone not familiar, Lean Six Sigma or LSS, it mixes two big ideas, right?
That's right. You've got lean, which famously comes from Toyota. It's all about cutting out waste. Wasted time, wasted steps, anything that doesn't add value. Streamlining.
Getting efficient.
Exactly. And then there's Six Sigma, which started at Motorola. That one's focused on reducing errors, variation, defects, making processes really consistent and high quality. Michael George summed it up nicely, saying it's a methodology that focuses on moving a process toward perfection. Put them together, Lean and Six Sigma, and you get a really powerful toolkit for improvement.
Okay, makes sense. So let's dive into how our author actually used this. They focused on the DMAIC method. That's define, measure, analyze, improve, control. Sounds very systematic.
It is, and they applied it very directly to their job search, almost like managing a project. Let's break it down. First up, define.
Right.
So they didn't just vaguely say, I need a job. They got specific. The problem was defined as not landing interviews, even though they felt they had the right background, global experience, all that.
Ah, okay, so focusing on that early stage, not just the final offer. That's smart.
It really narrows the focus, doesn't it? It tells you where to look first.
So after define comes measure. And this is where it gets, data-driven. They tracked everything. Over 18,000 jobs filtered, nearly 2,000 applications sent out. 0.45 first interviews. 29 times they got to case studies or final rounds. And still, at that point, no job offer.
Yeah.
What does tracking like that actually do for you beyond showing the sheer volume?
Well, it moves you past just feeling overwhelmed, right? Having those hard numbers. 1962 applications leading to 45 first rounds. That's a specific conversion rate you can look at.
Okay.
Maybe, you see, I get lots of first interviews for this type of role, but never make it past the second round. Or maybe the final round conversion is the issue. It gives you a baseline. You know where you are.
Right, like a diagnostic.
Yeah.
So with all this data, what did the analyse phase uncover? Did any patterns jump out?
Yes, this was a key moment. Looking at the feedback they did get, or maybe just noticing the kinds of jobs they weren't progressing in, a theme emerged. Not enough sector-specific experience.
Ah, even with global experience.
Exactly. The insight wasn't just, I lack experience, but maybe my existing experience isn't being communicated in the right way for these specific sectors. It's about framing.
That makes a lot of sense. Tailoring the message. Okay, so they identified the gap. What happened in the improve phase? What did they actually do?
This is where they got proactive. Instead of just sending more CVs into the void, they took action. Two main things. Targeted networking, actually talking to people in the industries they wanted to be in.
That's smart.
And secondly, taking on pro bono consulting projects. They mentioned doing 6 small, sort of odd-end consultancies, basically getting hands-on, relevant experience to fill that perceived gap.
Building the story and the connection.
Precisely. Directly addressing the issue found in the analysis.
And the last step, control. How do you control a job search? It's not like a factory line.
No, it's not about keeping a physical process stable. In this context, control is more about Setting up a feedback loop, continuously monitoring.
Okay.
Are these changes, the networking, the pro bono work, actually leading to more interviews, better feedback? Are things moving forward more consistently after the improvements? It's about checking if the changes are working and sticking with what does.
It's genuinely fascinating to see this structured, almost clinical approach applied to something so personal and often messy.
It really is.
And the author points out they weren't alone in seeing this connection. They quote Professor Dr. Marcelo Machado Fernandez, a Lean Six Sigma master black belt, who said, "The principles that transform organizations can also transform lives."
That's a powerful statement, especially coming from someone with his credentials, master black belt, ASQ certified, mini-tab trainer. He knows the framework inside out.
And the author felt the certification gave them more than just skills. It gave them a framework for resilience.
I think that's key. It's not just about the tools, it's the mindset shift. Seeing challenges not as roadblocks, but as processes you can analyze and improve. It gives you a sense of agency.
Yeah, absolutely. And this isn't just about one person's job search. The author shares examples from Africa, too, showing broader applications, like Sarah Odiambo in Nairobi.
Right, manufacturing executive.
Yeah, she used LSS in her textile company, cut production waste by 23%. That's significant.
Very significant.
And she talks about the wider impact, saying, "These principles help our communities build sustainable business practices and create reliable employment."
That really shows the versatility, doesn't it? From optimizing a factory floor in Nairobi to refining a person job search strategy, the core thinking applies. And her point about community impact is crucial.
Then there's Joseph Mwangi in Mombasa with his food delivery service. He used basic lean ideas, no fancy consultants needed.
Just clear thinking, as he put it.
Exactly. He mapped out their process, cut unnecessary steps, and boomed delivery times down by 40%.
That's a fantastic example of how even fundamental lean concepts can have a huge impact. Just visualizing how you do things and asking, is this step really needed, can unlock so much efficiency.
It makes it feel very accessible. And Dr. Kemi Agbayamo from Lagos Business School adds another layer, saying, "The beauty of Lean Six Sigma lies not in its complexity, but in its fundamental belief that improvement is always possible, always within reach."
I love that quote. It really captures the spirit. It's about fostering that belief you can make things better. It's empowering. It moves you from feeling stuck to looking for solutions.
And our author really took that to heart. They talk about this big perspective shift, starting to see rejections not as failures, but as data, setbacks as chances to learn.
That's the DMAIC cycle in action, right there in their mindset. Analyze the rejection, data, figure out what needs to change, improve. It's turning something negative into fuel for the next step.
And they explicitly tie this back to that yellow belt certification. It became more than just a line on the CV.
It symbolized a new way of thinking, a structured approach to problem solving.
And things seem to be looking up towards the end of the narrative. There's mention of a new interview request.
Yeah, suggesting the improve actions might be paying off.
And the author faces it with, I like this phrase, structured optimism.
Structured optimism. Not just wishful thinking, but confidence based on having a plan, having analyzed, having adapted.
Yeah.
It's hope grounded in process.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems to be just how adaptable these Lean Six Sigma ideas are. They're not just for factories.
Not at all. They offer a practical toolkit, a way of thinking that can help navigate all sorts of challenges, personal or professional, even the emotional roller coaster of job hunting.
It's about seeing those failures differently, not as dead ends, but as information, as chances to tweak the process.
Opportunities for continuous improvement. And it reframes hope, doesn't it? It's not passive. It can be an active practice, something you build through analysis and adjustment.
So a final thought for everyone listening. Think about a challenge you're facing right now, maybe a personal one. Where's the waste in how you're approaching it? Where could you reduce variation for better results?
What data, even simple data, could you track to understand it better?
Maybe it's time to see that part of your life, just like our author did, as its own continuous improvement project. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.